let's take a look at domain and range. So our domain refers to all of our input or our x values, and our range refers to all the defined outputs or y values. So we're going to take a look at domain and range in interval notation on 2 dimensions, domain and range. And so let's take a look here. Here's some little help to kind of help us in finding domain and range. So domain, remember, is our x values. And so domain, I'm going to highlight here. We're only looking at our x values here. So we want to see what is the lowest x value of this graph. So looking here, the lowest is -5. So the minimum is -5, and we notice it's an open circle. So domain as our x is -5. Then we look at what's the highest it is. The highest it gets is here at 0, and it's a closed circle. So we put a closed circle at 0. So here is the interval of this graph in 1 dimension. So the maximum value is 0. Now, just remembering from previous lessons before, we have to remember what parentheses and bracket mean. Parentheses, we use parentheses for open circles and then also for infinity. Infinity, the reason why that is because there's no ending number, right? So maybe that'll help you with remembering that. Now, if we have brackets, brackets is the number is included, and so we'll see on our graph closed circles or closed dots. Okay, so whenever you see that, that's what it pertains to. So in this case here, this is going to be a bracket, and on the left side, it's going to be a parentheses because it's open circle. And so we're just going to write that. So minimum x value, that -5 has a parentheses because it's an open circle. Then the maximum is a bracket because it's a closed circle. Okay, it's closed circle. Sorry, let me add one more thing on there as well, is that if the graph passes through the point. If graph passes through that point. And we'll see that in some examples on the right. Okay, so how we write this in interval notation is we always write it from least to greatest. That is the rule. And so you just have to make sure you always write least to greatest. So the lowest is -5, and that's a parentheses, to 0, and that's a bracket. Now let's do the range. So range, we're going to take a look at our y values here. So let's take a look at what's the minimum y value or lowest y value. And if we look, we notice that the lowest is here, and that is at -4. The highest y value, looking at this blue, is +5, and it's an open circle. So here is our range. So the minimum y value is -4. We know that's going to be a bracket because it's closed circle. Then we take a look at the maximum. That's going to be parentheses. That's 5, and that's because it's an open circle. So again, you list from least to greatest. Our lowest number is -4, and that's a bracket because that's closed circle, to a +5 parentheses because that's an open circle. Now let's take a look at another example here. So we're taking a look at what's the minimum x value. So let's highlight our x values here. Oops, highlight it. And so what is the lowest x value, our domain? And so when I'm looking at the graph here, notice the first thing I hit is an arrow. So an arrow means that it goes forever. And so that's going forever to the left. So that is -infinity. The numbers are getting infinitely smaller to the negative values. Then we look at what's the highest x value. The highest x value is a +2. Okay, so that's the interval we're looking at. So the minimum value is a -infinity, and I talked about it before. That's a parentheses. Then the highest x value is a 2, and that's also a parentheses because that's an open circle. So minimum parentheses because it's a -infinity, and then the right is also parentheses because it's open circle. So the domain in this case, always least to greatest, is -infinity, 2 parentheses. Let's look at our range here. Oops. So we're looking at our y values. So when we're looking at this, the lowest y value we see is, the first thing we hit is this arrow right here, which tells us it goes to infinity, negative infinity. The highest y value, looking at the blue, the highest this graph goes is here at 0. So 0, open circle, and it goes to infinity. So let's write it. So what is the minimum y value? That is negative infinity. That'll be parentheses. And the maximum is 0. That's also parentheses because it's open circle. So to write this, we write this as negative infinity, comma, 0, and then a parentheses as well. Now, to talk about set notation, so just to kind of get a little comfortable with that, let's go back to this example here. Domain is our x value, and so x is between, the values we can have is between negative 5 and 0. So x, what is x to the negative 5? Well, x is actually greater than negative 5, okay? And so we'll write that. X is greater than negative 5. On the right, that is going to be x is less than or equal to 0. Equal to because it's a closed circle. And so the domain in set notation is just that. X is between negative 5 and 0, and then it's only less than on this side and less than or equal to. Again, it's less than because it's an open circle. I actually can't have that number, and this is 0 is included, closed circle, so that's why it's that one there. Let's take a look at our y value. So let's try that one. So in our y's, y is between negative 4 and 5. So y is greater than or equal to that negative 4, but it's less than that 5 value. Open, it's not equal to. So this is going to be, all the way at the bottom, y is between negative 4 with an equal to and 5. Okay? So this one, because it's infinity, it's a little different. So we know that 2, every value of x is less than 2. So that's what you write. X is less than 2. All the numbers of x are less than 2. For this example here, our range, so all our y values are from 0 to negative infinity. So we can say that y is less than 0. Okay, whatever that number is here and whatever that number is here, maybe that helps you out. So I would like to challenge you to try set notation. If it's really too much and you can't, that's okay. Do at least interval notation for all of these on the back. And then if you can, stretch yourself to try to do set notation. So let me write the set notation here. X is less than 2 when there's an infinity. And then on here, y is less than 0. Okay, so if you pause the video, or you can write down your answers. Yeah, well, I'll show the answers in class tomorrow. I'll show one more example here. I will do number 1 and number 4. So pause the video, and then when you come back, I'll have the answer for you. All right, if you tried this out, so I did both. So on number 1, it's negative infinity to 4, and I highlighted the pink to help you out. And then for the range, the lowest is 0, and it goes to positive infinity. And then if you tried the set notation, this is what it should look like. For number 4, this is the domain is negative infinity to infinity because it goes forever. Then for the range, the lowest is negative infinity. And then the highest is a positive 3, and that's included. It's closed circle there. It passes through that point. And so this is the answer in interval notation. Now here, this just means all real numbers x. That's what that means, the fancy r and the x. And then for the y is less than or equal to 3. Hopefully that helps out. Okay, thanks for watching.